I did an experiment about a decade ago in which I created a kind of a time machine, or what the Tibetans call it, Terma. And the reason I did this was to bring it up later on when I came out of the dragon closet, so to speak. So that was a way of kind of preparing the timeline for that, I guess. So what I'm going to do this time around is I'm going to do a follow-up to that and leave a time capsule in the form of mudras, because the mudras are to code, like you code on computers and use keyboards and whatnot, but sorcerers, we use reality itself and the hands and different gestures to encode that into the matrix itself. So essentially that's what I'm going to do. An iteration of what I did a decade ago. I'm going to do it again for some unforeseeable future. Some future. When the time is ready, it'll be unpacked and downloaded, so to speak. I've been through different situations like that where things will emerge from the unconscious, from the subconscious when they need to. And so there is an element of dissociation. There are good ways to dissociate and there are bad ways to dissociate. We might be able to get into that later on. MK Ultra is a bad way. That comes from the Vamachara Tibetans, and it was brought here by Operation Paperclip. I've done research specifically on that, and victims of that type of dharmas or manipulation, the negative side, dissociation. The positive side of dissociation is to be able to do it consciously and to be able to function on simultaneous tracks at the same time. In order to be able to do that, you have to be able to amplify your ability to process information. That's part of the training when it comes to achieving mastery. That is the process you have to go through in order to get there, in order to be clear enough to be able to dissociate in that kind of way without losing coherence. So this is why in my toroidal field of consciousness model, I posit that consciousness is a spectrum. And I was the only one that was positing that back then. I didn't go right to the right kinds of schools. Didn't have the right kinds of mentors, so nobody listens anyway, but it was published a decade ago. And there's a spectrum from decoherence, a spectrum of consciousness from decoherence to coherence to supercoherence. So in a supercoherent state, you're able to engage in a greater bandwidth. You're in a theta brainwave state that might be able to be correlated with a supercoherent state, and you're able to bring in more information at the same time, and you're able to eventually get to a point where you can parallel process on different layers at the same time. So being able to dissociate and whatnot is part of that process. And to be able to do it seamlessly is mastery. So again, going back to this, I'm going to start to upload, so to speak, to code into the matrix this time capsule. So let me go ahead and get started, and then I'll end the transmission.